Alright, so for our macaroni, our water comes to a rolling boil, which is what we want. And it's seasoned with salt and some olive oil. And what I'm going to add to it is 1 pound of small elbow macaroni. And then I'm going to add 1 pound of the large elbow macaroni. There you go. One. Add the second one, the large one. Alright. I'm going to stir this up, loosen them up a little bit. And since we're making macaroni pie, we're only going to be cooking this for about 8 minutes. And so in about 2 minutes, every 2-3 minutes, I want to come and stir it. Make sure they're not sticking to the pot. See you then. Alright, so we're back. Let's give you a little stir action. Stir them up. Like I said, make sure they don't stick. Looks like some of them are breaking the rules, trying to stick to the bottom. And then straighten up and fly right. You know. All right, another 2 minutes, and then we'll be back. All right, time's up. Let's check to see if they're the right consistency for me. Mix. Stir it up a bit. Get one. If I can get one. Go on this plate for a couple seconds because I'm not trying to burn myself. Let it cool down. Always let your pasta cool a little bit before you taste it. Unless you want to burn up mouth. Yeah, that's good. Turn the water off. Now let's get my trusty strainer. Yeah, you'll like this guy. All right, I'm gonna get my strainer. It's like this guy. Big guy. Love this dude. Gonna strain our pasta so we can get to the next step. There you go, let's get this strained. Has a lot of pasta in there. Alright. Get these drier noodles that they're trying to cling on for dear life. Yep, you got to go too, brother. Get all those. And that goes. All right. Now for the ones that are hard-headed, we're going to go ahead and put some water in here so it softens those up. There's only a couple pieces in here, but still. All right, on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to add some butter to this. We're going to be adding roughly a half stick of butter to each one of these. Yeah, I didn't say this was the healthiest, but it will taste good. Alright, so let's get this butter chopped up. And get the butter all in there. And you gotta mix it up. Alright. Okay, let's get this butter mixed in. Move the little butter cubes to the different quadrants of your pan so it can melt evenly. But then, I mean, you're gonna stir it up, so it really doesn't matter where you put it as long as you let it melt and you stir it up good, so every little piece of noodle gets some oil, some butter, so it's not all clumped up together. You really don't want that at this point. Not at this stage. You don't want it clumped up. Okay. And you're gonna be mixing again when we do the cheese sauce. So you don't have to be super thorough at this point, but it does help. But as long as the butter is melted, you can mix this up and you'll have good results. That butter is also going to coat the bottom of the pan too, to help prevent it from sticking too much. And that's what you want as well. All right, it's almost completely melted. And if not, it will be when I add the cheese sauce, I can tell you that. And we're going to be making that here in just a few moments. And this is going to be baking in a 375 degree oven for 30 to 45 minutes. You know, all the parts are going to be cooked, but you want the cheese sauce to melt into all the individual macaroni holes. Fill each macaroni elbow with some cheese. Let it ooze in there. And that's what we want. Alright, so while that continues to melt, let's start working on the sauce. Okay, so I have a big pot here. You can't really see inside it, but you know, just listen to my voice, listen to the recipe. From time to time, I give you a little peek-see. But we're going to turn the fire on, medium. I have a half a stick of butter in here. We're going to get that melted down, and we're going to make a roux for the macaroni cheese sauce. Alright, so let's let the butter melt, and then we'll add the flour. Now, you might wonder why I'm using such a big pot. Well, for this particular, I guess, recipe, what I'm doing right now, I mean, even though it's smaller than the normal batches I make, I'm still making 6 pounds of macaroni, so I need a lot of sauce. So I need this big pot. So I don't have to worry about overflow issues and things like that. Okay, so the butter's just about melted. So now we're going to add some flour, and what you want to do, you want to add about the same amount of flour as you have fat, or in this case butter, to start your roux. Now over to the side here, I have 3 eggs and some milk in a bowl that I'm going to be scrambling here pretty soon to add into this. Let's get this stirred up. And you want to cook your flour taste out of the roux. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a gravy or a roux or a sauce and you taste flour. You know, that's horrible. So, I mean, it don't take long, 30, 45 seconds, and you're good. Right? So we'll be back when that gets done. Okay, so now the roux is ready. So now we're going to be adding some milk. We're going to be adding quite a bit of milk. Probably start off 2.5 cups to start off. We'll be adding more because we're going to be adding about 4 pounds of cheese. Yeah, like I said, I didn't say this was healthy, but it is delicious. It's all mixed in. Now before the milk heats up, We got our eggs in our bowl here. We're going to mix it up with the in some milk. And then we're going to add that in here. You don't want to add it when it's hot because you'll scramble your eggs, and that's not what you want. I mean, you could temper your eggs, but I just find it easier if you just add it into the cold milk. That nice and mixed in. And that egg is going to act as a binder along with the roux. Let me give you a little peek in here so you can see what I'm talking about. See that? There's no scrambled eggs in there. All right. Keep that stirred up. And now what we want to do is start to introduce the cheese. Now, here's the thing about introducing the cheese. You don't want your milk mixture to be simmering. You don't want it to be, definitely don't want it to be boiling. Because if the milk and the cheese is too hot, that's when you get that graininess, that grainy cheese. You know, you've had people's macaroni and cheese, it's all grainy, you know, it just tastes fibery because the temperature was too hot when they melted the cheese. So I turned it down to low, and now let's add first off, we're going to add the 2 pounds of mild cheddar cheese. And we're going to get this melted down. Okay, let's add that. Half at first. Let's get this melted down. And you may have to add more milk if it's too thick, because you don't want this to be too thick. That's a definite no. You want it to be saucy, you know, so it can get in all the nooks and crannies of your macaroni, you see? Alright, so I'll be back when we get finished melting the mild. So at this point, you want to start seasoning. Just add a little bit of pepper. Just a little bit. I mean, you're not trying to blow nobody's mind out. A little bit. Do not add salt, because you're putting so much cheese in here that the salt content is going to be through the roof. So don't worry about the salt right now. Then stir this up. It's almost time to add the next cheese. And this recipe that I use is simple. Kids love it. You know, they'll eat it in a heartbeat. The other cheese is sharp cheddar cheese. So we have 2 pounds of mild, and now we're going to add 2 pounds of sharp. Alright, let's start adding the sharp. Add half of it at first. And so yeah, in case you haven't quite figured it out yet, yeah, the ratio is for every pound of macaroni, you want 2 pounds of cheese. That is what I found over the years to give the best results. Now, the milk content, that's going to vary. That goes from person to person. You know, some people like their cheese sauce to be thicker. Some people like it to be thinner. I'm one of the ones that kind of in the middle, not too thick, but not too thin. Because like I said, I want the cheese to go into the little nooks and crannies of the elbow macaroni, you know, as it bakes. All right. Add the other half of the sharp cheese. There we go. Make sure the temp's on low and stir them up. You know, some people put, you know, onions and bell pepper. Some people put bacon. Some people put sour cream in their macaroni pie, in their baked macaroni. And I call it macaroni pie because you bake it like a pie. So that's why I call it macaroni pie. I don't do all that. You know, less is more, simpler. Just keep it simple. You want mac and cheese, you want a good mac and cheese, this will do it for you. And let me give you another little peek, little peekaboo. See that? That's what you want. You're slowly melting it. Yeah, no rush. You can't be in a rush when you're making good macaroni and cheese. You don't want to be in a rush, because it's going to affect your end product. Now at this point, the cheese is not completely melted, but it's melted enough for me to put it on the macaroni. And that's what we're going to do now. Be right back. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add the cheese sauce to the macaroni noodles. Now we'll start off slow. We just pour it. Pour a decent amount in. One. Then on the second one, decent amount in. Alright. Now we mix. Just like you did the butter before. Mix that in. Yes, sir. Get that nice and mixed in. Because while it's in the oven, the cheese is going to continue to melt. And it's going to seep into all the little macaroni holes. And that's what you want. So like I said before, if you had any butter that didn't melt, at this stage it will melt because the cheese is coming in hot and heavy. Let's get this guy mixed up, little guy. All that cheesy goodness. And we're going to be adding more cheese to this for topping, believe it or not. This is just to take care of the innards of the mac and cheese, the body, if you will. And adding that egg in it, it's going to help it set good. See, I got some more cheese in the pot that I'm going to be putting in here. So let's get that. Alright, let's get that poured in here. Nice and steaming. Look at that. Look at that. You know, you can put it anywhere on here because you're going to be mixing it back up. So this is definitely one of those get in when you fit in moments. Alright. Get this in here. The cheese trying to go rogue, but we got it. Get it nice and mixed up. This is going to be real cheesy now because of that ratio. Every pound of pasta, 2 pounds of cheese. Make it work. Nice and mixed in good. Okay, now we want to give it a crust. And what I like to use is just more cheese. In this case, I'm using just some mild cheese. And just going to sprinkle some across the top. Don't need a lot. Just sprinkle it across the top. Some people use, breadcrumbs, crackers, bacon bits. I'm not a fan of those. I just want my macaroni and cheese. Now, I may have some strips of bacon on the side, but I just want my macaroni and cheese. That's what I'm coming for, so that's what I want, so give it to me. And you don't have to overdo it, because this thing is chock full of cheese as is. This will definitely clog you up if you eat too much of it. But oh, it's so delicious. Now we need to preheat the oven for 375. At this point, if you want, you can add a little bit more pepper. Not a lot. Don't get crazy with it. You just want to accent it a little bit. You almost don't even have to see it, because remember, you added some before. That's all you need. All right, let's put these bad boys in the oven. 375 degrees. Preheat the oven. And we got the double oven going. About 30-45 minutes. We want to get it a nice melting of the cheese, but we want that crust on the top that macaroni pie is famous for. See you then. All right, so it's time to take it out of the oven. Should be crisp enough. Yes, sir. All right, that's one. Let's get the other guy out. Woo! All the heat. Gotta look. Yeah, there's the other guy. Can't complain. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is what we want. Got the nice little crispy bits. Yes, the cheese is melted nicely. It's hella cheesy, you already know that.